Anybody else woke up this morning with a crook in their neck? No? Just me? Oh, okay. I guess this show must go on. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It is your girl Brandy, and I am back with my August reading wrap up. So, I woke up with a crook in my neck this morning, so I'm sitting a little sideways, okay? Because it's hurting. It's hurting real bad. And I got my books over here. I'm talking to y'all right here. And that's how we gonna wrap this month up, okay? All right. So, I had a wonderful reading month, y'all. Like, when I say wonderful, I really had a wonderful reading month. I got through majority of my summer TBR. Yes. Majority of my physical TBR for the summer was read this month, and I'm so excited about it because that's 6 books for my physical TBR, and this month I read 9. So cheers to that. Okay, so let's get into some quick stats. So like I said, I read 9 books. 7 of them were physical. Now 6 of them were from my physical TBR. 1 of them I actually borrowed from my local library. I read 1 ebook and I did 1 audiobook. I was really not in an audiobook mood this month, like at all. And I almost didn't listen to the audiobook that I did listen to because I just didn't want to listen to nobody talk in my ear for hours and hours and hours. Like, I didn't have time for it. But the book was really good. So let's get into what I read this month. So the first book I read this month was actually an ebook, and it was Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. You guys already heard all of my thoughts, all of my opinions, every single thing I had to say about this book. The only thing you guys didn't get from me this month yet is my rating. And I rated that book 5 stars. I rated that book 5 stars. If you have not read Part of Your World or the Part of Your World series, I need y'all to get into it. Yes, it gives summer vibes, but it also gives cozy vibes. And personally, I would read it whenever I felt like it. That's just me. The only book I wouldn't have read when I felt like it was just for the summer, because obviously it says summer in the title. But the book is amazing. I loved it. It's actually my favorite book in the series. And I gave it a 5 stars. So the next book I actually read was a book from my physical TBR, and it was one that I actually added to my summer TBR because I don't remember if I told you guys, but I had a stack of books, and I know I showed you guys this stack of books from my summer TBR, and I was able to add more books to it, but I could not take any from it. And this book here was sent to me by the author and from the publishing company, and I added it to it and I read it immediately, and it is called Love Lessons. I believe I did a reading vlog with this one as well, so I'm not gonna give you guys a whole bunch of spiel deal and all of that about the book, but it is what is this, a one-night stand accidental pregnancy trope, and it is between 2 teachers. The spice was spicing. This book was really good, really funny, really cute. I gave this book a 4 stars. I gave this book a 4 stars. It was really a good time. I felt like it was perfect for back to school because, you know, all the kids, well, a lot of the kids went back to school at the top of August. So I made sure to read it at the top of August, and it actually published, I think, August 6th. So I wanted to make sure I went ahead and read it before the published date so I could post my review for the author. But this book was really, really good. I highly recommend. And again, I've already made a video talking about this book, literally all of my raw thoughts and feelings about this book, so go reference that video because this was a good time. So the next book I read was actually my book club's pick for the month, and it was Kendrick by Octavia Butler. And I borrowed that book from the library. I actually borrowed the physical copy and I borrowed the ebook. I did a whole entire cozy reading vlog on that one. So I'm not gonna go into super detail about that book either. But what I can say is that book did shock the heck out of me. That was my first book I read by that author, and it will not be my last. And it is also my first book I ever read in that genre. I think it was like a science fiction, historical fiction type of genre, and that was my first time reading a book with the science fiction in it, and I really enjoyed it, and I gave that book a 4 stars. And when I say the book club we had discussing that book, it was so good. The dialogue we had between each other was so good. It was a very good book. That's actually a book that I'll read again. Like, I actually want to read that book again, and I know it's a Hulu series, but a lot of people were telling me that it was canceled after the first season, and then also a lot of people were telling me that the series is nothing like the book, so I don't think I'm going to be even wasting my time on the series. But I did give that book a 4 stars, and I do highly recommend if you haven't read it already. So the next book I read, and y'all, I'm gonna need my notebook for this one. I read Mrs. Wiggins by, what is her name? Mary Monroe. Now this book is part of a series. It is book number 1 in the Lexington, Alabama series. And I did this one via audiobook. And the only reason why I went ahead and listened to this book, because like I told you guys, I was not in the mood to do audiobooks. But the only reason why I went ahead and listened to this book is because I did have it on hold for a long time. And that's just one of those books that I will never ever buy physically until they change the covers of those books, because the cover is hideous. And I don't want that sitting on my bookshelf. But the book was a great time. So the female main character comes from a prostitute alcoholic household. So her mom was a prostitute, her dad was an alcoholic, and she wants to marry someone total opposite. She wants to marry a good upstanding man who's going to church, who's going to change the narrative of her, because she comes from that family. Everybody is looking at her like, you're gonna be one of the two, because your mama is one and your daddy is two. So she wanted to marry someone who was totally different. And so she marries this man who is the most eligible bachelor, named Herbert Wiggins. He has a secret that he desperately needs to hide, and Maggie, which is Mrs. Wiggins, becomes the perfect partner to help him hide that secret. Yeah, when I say this book was so good, it was so good. And what made me so upset was the fact that they even have that kind of cover on the book. Like, I wish they would change the cover. But let's just say Maggie Wiggins, she stands on business, okay? She stands on business, and that's what it looked like she's doing in this cover, standing on business. The book was such a good time. What I can say is you get introduced to a lot of the characters in their community, and you just, child, these church folks ain't nothing nice. These church folks ain't nothing nice. When I say these church folks ain't nothing nice, they are not. The only character that really made me mad in the book was the son. He was so gullible. The son was so gullible. I wanted to reach through the book and tell him to stand up. Stand up, child. Stand up on your 2 feet and stand on business like your mama. Please stand on business like your mama. So I gave this book a 3.5 rating. I don't plan on going into the rest of the series. I just wanted to see what the hype was about for this book. The hype was real. It was a good time. If you're interested or been hesitant like me due to the cover, get the audiobook. it makes for a perfect, great time. I was listening to it and laughing while I was cooking, while I was driving, while I was at work, and all of that. So the next book that I read is A Wildfire. This book is book number 2 in the Maple Hill series. This is a hockey romance. I did do a reading vlog talking about my thoughts and opinions and everything about this book. This book has the miscommunication trope. It is set in the summer. They are working at a summer camp. They both have daddy issues. So this made for a good summer read. I really enjoyed it. What I can say about the book is the summer camp part kind of dragged because we're getting introduced to a lot of the workers at the summer camp that has nothing to do with the story. And we do get introduced to like some of the kids at the summer camp and stuff like that. And the whole thing about the book is that they're not supposed to have relationships while at the summer camp. So the whole time we're reading while they're at the summer camp, they're kind of trying to sneak around and, you know, and it was a drag at some point. But then we got to some good parts where you got to the good subplots. So the subplots is really what did this book for me. I love a romance with a good subplot. Everybody reads romance for different reasons, but for me, I love a good subplot in a romance because it really draws my attention more. All in all, I gave this book a 3.5. I am going to continue in the series because I'm very invested in one of the main characters from the first book. His name is Henry, and his book literally just dropped, and I am going to go get it because I'm invested in his life. I love Henry, so I am going to continue on this series. And I do recommend, if you're into hockey romance, which this is my first hockey romance, if you're into hockey romance, I do recommend this series. It's pretty good. So the next book I read is The Break She Needed by Lauren Lacey. This is book number 1 in the Black Summer Island series. I did an entire reading vlog about this one, and I can actually pull out this other one too. This one is The Family She Found. So I did a reading vlog about my thoughts and my opinions about both of these books. This is book 1, this is book 2. It is a 3-part series. I received the 3rd book as an e-arc a long time ago before I realized that it was part of a series. This series was very, very good. They're both novellas. And they're like under 150 pages. Both books are under 150 pages. I feel like if you are a quick reader with no obligations, you could probably get through both of these books in one day. I gave this one a 3.5 stars and I gave this one a 4 stars. I highly recommend. This is a billionaire type series. These people are Black and they are billionaires, okay? They got money, okay? And Black Summer Island is specifically for Black people. So I highly recommend this series. If you're just looking for a cute romance, yes, this is it. Definitely give big summer vibes. This one, this character here, she was a hard worker, but this one right here, she was a hot girl. So you get the best of both worlds. The 3rd one, she's like the mama bear of the group. So yeah, I highly recommend this series. If I had to rate the entire series, I would give it a solid 4 star. Another series I got to complete in the month of August was the Part of Your World series. So I finally got to Just for the Summer. And you guys already know how I felt about this book. And if you have not seen my vlog, please go reference that vlog because I've already given you my thoughts and opinions about this book. I did an entire reading vlog for this one, you guys. First of all, I am so happy to finally wrap up this series. 2 series in 1 month. Like, girl, you was really in your reading bag this month, okay? And I was just so happy to wrap up this series because everybody was talking about how this book here is going to wrap it all up, literally. And I talked about that in my reading vlog too. If you have not listened or watched my reading vlog, please go reference my reading vlog. If you have this book sitting on your shelf and you had not read the other 2, which is Part of Your World and Yours Truly, I highly recommend you just save this one for last because it's going to wrap up the entire series and you're going to get characters from both books in this book as well. And then you're going to see why some of the things happen to the characters in this book, which you probably wouldn't understand unless you read the other two. Y'all, this book was just so good, and I already told y'all that, and I'm not going to go over it again, but what I can say is this is on my list of favorites of 2024. If I was to rate this book, I would give it a 5 stars. I think I gave every book in this series a 5 stars. I had to go look at my Goodreads, and solid 5 stars for every single book in this series. The entire series is obviously a 5 star, and I obviously highly recommend. So while I'm sitting up here completing series in the month of August, I actually started a brand new series that I was not sure about. When I added this book to my wish list, I had no clue that it was part of a series. I want to say this book was added to my wish list before the second book even came out, which is why I didn't know it was part of the series. But it is Make a Scene by Mimi Grace. Y'all, this book was so cute, very short, under 250 pages. You get a fake dating trope. So if you are into a fake dating trope, then this book is for you. You get a baker, her name is Retta, and you get a gym owner, his name is Duncan. And basically what happens is Retta's cousin is marrying her ex-boyfriend. Yeah. And when I started reading, instantly started thinking of Only for the Weak by Natasha Bishop. Because remember, the main character in that book, her sister was marrying her ex. And for the life of me, I cannot understand why family members want to marry family members' ex-boyfriends. Like, y'all can't go get your own man? I don't understand. Like, I don't get it. But her cousin is marrying her ex-boyfriend, and his name is Chris. And she RSVPs for the wedding and adds a +1. The thing is, Retta ain't got no man. She ain't got no man. But she can't let her ex and her cousin stand her up at this wedding. So she gonna do a +1, okay? And I was like, girl, why did you put a +1 on there knowing you ain't got no man? So, she is business neighbors with Duncan. Her and Duncan's teams are basically fighting over parking spots. Unassigned parking is what they're fighting over. And so Duncan comes over to the bakery basically to introduce himself to everybody because he's new. He's new in the strip mall, and he's her neighbor. And he wanted to come and introduce himself to them because he has never met them. So she's like, okay, so since you over here introducing yourself, let's talk about these parking spots. And he like, yeah, what about them? And she like, yeah, you parking in my unassigned parking spot. And he like, oh, okay, what that mean? Because we ain't got no assigned parking. And she like, well, we do. It's just unassigned assigned parking. And he's like, okay, I'm confused. And so they're talking or whatever. And she's like, you know, how about we figure out a way to share these parking spots? How about you be my date at my cousin's wedding? And then you could get these parking spots for you and your staff. And he's a team player. So he's like, okay, for sure. Let's do it. And the story goes up from there. Y'all, this book was so cute. The fake dating trope is really not my favorite because it's so unrealistic. You already know what's gonna happen. But this one was so good. I wish we could get a fake dating book where they fake date and end up hating each other and end up not being together at the end. Can somebody write that? I'm not an author. I'm not gonna write that. If you're an author and you're watching this video, go write that book. Yeah, go write it. But anyway, I gave this book a 3.5 stars. It was definitely a good time. I definitely plan on picking up the next book in a series. This book is set in the summer. They mention it in the book. It is set in the summer. The next one is set in the fall. And in the next book, we get Duncan's sister Gwen's story. And I would love to see what the heck is going on with her, because child, the little bit we got of her in this book, I'm intrigued. So yeah, I love this book, highly recommend. So those are all the books I read this month. I had a very, very good reading month. I completed 2 series, which I'm so happy about, even though I started a new one. But I think I'm going to dive deep into that new series really, really soon, since the next book is a fall book and we are ready for fall. So y'all let me know down in the comments if you read any of these books, if any of these books are on your radar, and if you have read any of these books, please let me know your thoughts about them so we can talk about them in the comments. As always, like, comment, and subscribe, and until next time, ta-ta.